The sky so far away tonight, but I can't lose this one. Got a pride of a falling night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me where did we go so the sky so far, but I can't lose this.
Let's be innovative. Let's challenge a norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
a new beginning, another opportunity to make a statement. Lionheart celebrates its roots with the car that started it all. 18 races to determine who is the best in the most exciting form of auto racing on the planet. 200-mile-per-hour Indy cars inches from disaster or glory. There can only be one Lionheart Speedway Series champion whose name will be etched into the Lionheart history books. The Lionheart Speedway Series presented by MOZA Racing starts now.
Last time out, the term No Limits Texas was truly tested. After several late race incidents, including a final restart stack-up, Andrew Wood crossed the line first under yellow. Now, with several drivers looking to rebound after the crazy finish to that race, they look to be tested with a jump to a track that could be challenging to conquer. Last season, the Milwaukee Mile had a Dolores DW12 Lionheart record, 10 caution flags. How will this year's race fare out? We're about to find out. This is the MOZA Racing Milwaukee 175. Hello everyone, and welcome to the third race of Season 2 of the Lionheart Speedway Series presented by MOZA Racing, live on RaceSpot TV and ESTV. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside me for tonight's action is Andrew Kinsella with Arjuna Kankipati in the producer's seat. You can also follow along with timing and scoring thanks to our partners at ATVO to follow along with your favorite teams and drivers from the virtual world of motorsport. Let's dive straight into our graphics esports countdown to green from the Milwaukee Mile. As boy oh boy, Andrew, was last race wild, this week could be even more wild.
It was an absolutely crazy finish last time out at Texas. Controversial finish, I might add, but I don't think that the action is going to slow down at all when we come to the Milwaukee Mile here tonight. It is one of those places where there just seems to be all sorts of action. The track is small. It is fairly wide, though, and it invites that type of lunging maneuver that so often ends in tears. So it's definitely going to be an interesting challenge here tonight, and I'm sure that we're going to see lots of action.
Your schedule brought to you by Next Level Racing, the first short track on the calendar. First a little while all the way to Gateway. It could be an important part for drivers this early part of the season, especially with the contrast seen from the two races on the campaign, to say the very least, Andrew. Homestead in Texas, now you have Milwaukee and Pocono the next two.
Absolutely, it was flat out at Texas and Homestead, but Milwaukee, there's a lot more driving that these drivers will all have to contend with tonight. Lots of even potentially some braking action that we might see just because of how flat this track is and how you need to get this car around the circuit. And then, of course, it all sets up for 1 week from today at Pocono, which will be our first Triple Crown race of the season. And a lot of these drivers will be looking to get some momentum going before they arrive at that Triple Crown race.
We'll talk more about that Triple Crown race later on tonight. Let's take a look at the driver standings, brought to you by Graphics Esports. Trevor Malone, after his strong start to the season, has the points lead over Joe Branch, Ricky Harding, Craig Forsythe. Samuel Ryman quietly is top 5 in the standings. And that's the intriguing thing. He's the highest running rookie, and he's done it by simply waiting patiently for the attrition to build up to finish in the top 10 so far.
Absolutely. Patience has been the name of the game here this season so far. You look at the likes of Matt Wagner, who has sat on pole for both of the races and led the vast majority of laps so far, but he's down in 6th place right now just simply because he hasn't been able to finish that strongly. But you look at the likes of Trevor Malone slowly working his way up through the fields race after race, and that has got him all the way up to the top of this top step of the driver standing so far.
Team standings brought to you by HyperX, and 4D Chance has been played by 4D Sim Racing, up by 5 points over Synergy Motorsports. And boy, what a difference 1 year can make. Powerslide Motorsports top 3 still, but plenty of different runners for the team title. Remember, Factory Back was one of the top teams. They're 8th after 2 races.
Absolutely not the start the Factory Back wanted to see to this season, but they've got a lot of strong drivers in their stable, and of course you can't count out Team Race First, but as you say, 4D Sim Racing has been absolutely electric so far, and Synergy Motorsports probably the surprise of the season so far with just how strong they've been, really taking it to some of these other teams so far. And as you can see, the standings are so tight after 2 races. There's still definitely everything to play for here.
We mentioned some of the rookies amongst the top 10. Let's take a look at the rookie standings brought to you by Butt Kicker. Samuel Ryman leads the way in those standings as an independent. Dakota DeMade in his first full-time season in the series second. Jacob Oster, he's had great pace this campaign, but not so much the luck. Jim Herrick, Will Gibson round out the top 5, but keep an eye on the Woods, 6th and 7th. Those drivers going to be intriguing. It is worth noting that Andrew Wood, after what happened at Texas, 25 points was the penalty for him after that event, which dropped him significantly down the pylon.
Yeah, definitely a significant penalty, but it's going to be one that I think Wood is definitely going to relish the challenge of overcoming and really proving that that was a one-off incident for him. But now we have
These are the series details presented by GSI. Indeed, second season of the campaign for Lionheart Speedway Series competition. Custom fixed setups built by you, Andrew. What will these drivers be feeling tonight at a track such as this as they battle for the cash and prize pool of $6,930 throughout the season?
Yeah, so the setup here tonight, it's got a really high downforce setup on it just simply because of how flat this track is. You need every ounce of grip that the car can give you, and the trick will be maintaining the tires throughout the course of the stint and really allowing the car to continue to rotate through the middle of the corner. The cars that rotate the best and keeps their tires under them, those are the cars that will have the long run pace to really be able to take it towards the front of the field as the runs wear on.
And remember, when it comes to this racetrack, the challenges have been real in Speedway competition. Second time this series has been here. 5th time with the DW12 chassis and Lionheart Racing Series competition, as seen by the MOZA Racing event details. But the caution record was set last year in this series, Andrew. The chances for cautions can be high. Some drivers have had some collisions in practice.
Absolutely, and when you get 40 cars on a 1 mile track, there's really no place that you can go if you have a moment, and it's so easy for the cars to just sort of stack up on the exit of the corners, particularly if it starts to get a little bit loose, and it can just very quickly turn into a much bigger incident than we perhaps had seen at Homestead in Texas. So it's definitely going to be intriguing to see how these drivers fare and how patient they'll have to be in order to really come out on top at the end here.
Final moments of practice underway, and as you see, it's mostly cloudy conditions for tonight. 71 degrees Fahrenheit, 88 degrees the track temperature, and declining as the day goes on. And some time approaching 3 p.m. already, with drivers about a minute or so away from the start of qualifying. And when it comes to the expectations on what we'll see for the drivers throughout the night tonight, how do you drive the Milwaukee Mile at full tempo at this circuit?
Yeah, so the 2 corners, although they look similar, they don't actually drive the exact same way. You really want to focus in on carrying your momentum into the corner. Probably you're going to be off the gas for a large portion of that front straightaway to just allow the car to rotate through, and then really focusing on that corner exit, particularly out of turn 4. It's very important to get the power down nice and early and really power out of that corner. Use all the track you can on the exit.
Remember, this racetrack, plenty of history when it comes to open wheel action. This facility originally opened in 1899 here at the Wisconsin State Fair Park, and has held some of the top drivers in all of motorsports in the United States and across America. A.J. Foyt, Al Unser, Bobby Unser, Darrell Waltrip, Alan Kowicki, Davey Allison amongst those who have raced here. Recent years as well, Dario Franchini, Bernie Ecclestone amongst those. Current race car drivers such as Danica Patrick and Scott Dixon have also raced here in the past as well. This is a track also looking for a bit of resurgence in the real world, and these drivers are looking to surge ahead here in the early portions of the season. It's It's going to be intriguing, though, which teams can come out on top for the first short track race of the campaign. As we've seen, some drivers, their preferences seem to lean towards tracks like the Milwaukee Mile last season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a sort of track that you need to get sort of the knack for. And a driver like, say, Joe Branch or our former series champion, Alexis Newsom, she was really, really strong on these types of short tracks. So it's definitely a unique challenge that it takes a lot of practice and a lot of patience to learn how to do well. And once you do, it's something that you can have a lot of fun with and go really, really fast at.
Qualifying is underway. 5 minutes, 2 solo qualifying laps tonight from the Milwaukee Mile. Keep in mind with these DW12s, 85% is the fuel limit for today's action. As mentioned, very cool track conditions. First, the drivers looking towards, this is JD Esports driver Gabriel Wood, and expecting some big things from him. He showed flashes of speed at Homestead in particular, looking to stay clean tonight though, as he's top 10 of the rookie standings.
And you can hear just how much he has to let off the throttle through the middle of the corner. I think probably what you're going to find is he drove it in there really, really deep. The faster way is, generally speaking, a little bit more backing up the corner, and that's something that these rookies who don't necessarily have that much experience won't know, but they will soon find out that there are fast ways around this track and there are slower ways, and I'm not sure that Gabriel Wood is going to have the fastest lap based on that first lap there.
Remember, he has a background in stock car racing with JD Motorsports, which runs in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He works amongst the crews at the racetrack. He's at the bottom of the board currently, just about. Matt Taylor's at the top of the board. He's currently about to end his second lap, trying to improve it to a 21.557 the second time, 5/1000 slower than his current best time. Tony Schowen, who led the way in final practice, was in front of him for a moment, but Tony Schowen and Matt Taylor 1-2 in practice, flip-flop in qualifying. Here's a look at that one.
Just look at how much speed Fowler carries off that corner, right out to the wall, comes across the line, 21.662. That's not quite good enough for the front of this field, but 6th place so far for Fowler.
Keep in mind that 2 drivers are to start at the back of the field tonight. Creighton Carter, who has an EOL that's carried over from Homestead. He did not start last time out at Texas. Andrew Wood with the avoidable contact EOL. And that point penalty will also have to start at the back at a track he's talked about he really likes to race at, but had it prepared for quite young at the time. We've seen him a couple weeks ago. Joe Branch, meanwhile, is looking to sting like a bee tonight. A different look for Branch.
Yeah, I really like this look on Branch. He's had more of the classic IndyCar type of look, but this is a little bit of a special paint scheme that he's got going on, and he's looking pretty quick here. 8th spot for Joe Branch as he crosses the line.
Branch looking qualifying speed well. Or looking well, I should say, in qualifying, as Ricky Harden jumps up top 10 as well. And Ricky Harden is hard in the wall on his second lap.
Yeah, definitely just tried to carry just that little bit too much speed. Matt Wagner, another one, he carried too much speed through turn 4, and that is a big, heavy impact, and it's not looking good for Matt Wagner to carry on his pole streak to start this season.
Several drivers really struggling to get a lap on the board with under 90 seconds to do so. Jim Herrick does get one up in the 21.7s, but the difference on the times not as compressed as we've seen in the past couple weeks, but still tight. Top of the board is in the 21.5s, 20th position in the 21.7s, about a 0.2 of a second difference from top to bottom as Michael Goodman jumps up into the top 3.
And that just goes to show you that time difference just goes to show you just how much a driver makes the difference at a track like Milwaukee. These drivers, of course, all have the same setup, but it's just the lines, it's the lifting of the gas. Every little thing makes that difference and allows a driver like Matt Taylor to really take a stranglehold on that top spot. But Matt Wagner looking to get one more run in to possibly displace him.
19th position, though, that's where he ends up finishing, and that's all the drivers who have elected to set time. Sam Crow has also not pulled onto the racetrack during this session, so 3 will elect to start from the back. 38 drivers are almost set to go to start on the grid for the Milwaukee Mile. Let's take a quick look at your starting grid from the fairgrounds of Wisconsin in just a moment. Andrew, your quick thoughts on what's expected to be action-packed tonight.
I think especially in the first few laps of this race, we're going to see some crazy action, 3 and 4 wide. It's an incredibly wide racetrack, especially in the straight lines, and it all funnels down into those corners. So I expect probably a little bit of calamity as well as we try to get the race going.
The drivers are now rolling their cars onto the starting grid. It's time to take a look at your starters from Milwaukee. On the pole tonight, it's Matt Taylor with a 21.552. That is a couple 100s quicker than Tony Shalin. Michael Goodman for Powerslide Motorsports starts in third, with Ron Hacker in 4 for Synergy. The Team Sim Race 24/7 machine, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, his best start of the season, is in 5th, with Mike Rigney in 6th. Behind them, it's Vern Hawkins III and Ricky Harden, followed by Chris Fowler. Rounding up the top 10 is Joe Branch. Dean Mall starts in 11th spot tonight, with Paul Jenkins in the 12th spot. 13th goes the direction of Shane Coogan, with James Watson in 14th. Jeff Gion and Samuel Ryman will start alongside each other 15th and 16th, with Gavin Sanders and Jim Herrick rounding out the top 18. Matt Wagner and Trevor Malone start 19th and 20th, with Will Gibson 21st. Isaiah Dupree's in 22nd tonight, with Matthew Short 23rd. Dakota DeMade, who showed speed at the short tracks this year, in the past 24th. Jacob Oster deep in the field 25th tonight, with Craig Forsyth in 26th, the opening race winner of the season. Mike Gibson and George Anzaldo 27th and 28th, with Hugo Gallas in 29th. AJ Musselman rounds out the top 30 here in Milwaukee. Gabriel Wood starts 31st, with Big Joe Hassard in 32nd. Gonzalo Munoz starts 33rd, with Gary Gonzo 34th. Ryan Eric King was the last driver to set a time. He'll start 35th. The rest of the drivers will start at the tail. Andrew Wood, Creighton Carter, Sam Crow did not set a time in qualifying, but does not have an EOL to serve officially. Let's take a look at your official onboard cameras tonight, your feature onboards, as Jacob Oster has the NLR onboard. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com. The 71 at Creighton Carter has the Graphics Esports on board. Graphics Esports, world-class design from the real world to virtual. Visit graphicsesports.com. With the Gomez Sim Industries on board, it's Joe Branch, makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Visit gomezsimindustries.com. And with the HyperX on board, it's Michael Goodman. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. 38 drivers ready to go quickly around Milwaukee tonight. The Milwaukee Mile, 175 laps on the board, 175 miles at this 1 mile facility. It's expected to be wild, to say the very least, from the get-go. The big question, which driver will come away with the MOZA Racing Milwaukee 175 victory and the attrition of last year? Just a few moments away or so from getting to racing from the Milwaukee Mile, as the Speedway Series is all set to go. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the start of the MOZA Racing Milwaukee 175. We're underway from Wisconsin. And a great start from Matt Taylor. The first battling side-by-side is for about 4th. Ron Hacker already under attack from a hard-charging Vern Hawkins III. The red and black machine is up 3 spots. He's nearly into the wall as Nunez goes inside, nearly 3 wide.
Definitely some wild action there. Vern Hawkins with a big mover on that start. He really, really nailed that start and used it to his advantage, but then nearly threw it all away coming out of turn 2 on lap 2. But the big loser, I think, there was, as my timing screen just goes completely blank for a second.
Well, one of the drivers who definitely went backwards, Ron Hacker, he's lost 3 spots in the span of 2 laps already, Andrew.
Yeah, it was Ron Hacker who we saw that was just going backwards there, and it's one of those things where sometimes you need to be really, really aggressive to start this race, and sometimes it's better to lay back and just see what happens. And we saw both of those strategies, but I do think that just with how tough it can be to pass around this place, particularly as the run goes on, that aggressive lunge from Vern Hawkins and from the likes of Luis Gonzalez Nunez and some others that we saw really will pay off for them trying to make hay while the sun shines here.
Well, keep in mind the sun isn't really shining today. 71 degrees Fahrenheit right now, 81 track temperature. Very cloudy conditions. You see those temperatures? 317 in sim on May 15th, 2022 in sim. It's going to get very cool today, to say the very least. It's very grippy right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And these cool temperatures will really be helping a lot of these drivers, particularly the rookies who might not feel as comfortable. This tire model really likes the cold weather that they have here today, and it should just be providing them just a little bit of extra security to maybe make some moves that they might not otherwise have been looking to try and make a move on. But one of the movers that we've seen so far, Sam Ryman has gone a little bit backwards at the start, but he's definitely looking to reverse that here as he's all over the back of the car in front of him.
Big run for Samuel Ryman. He ducks underneath the car in front, and Dean Mall looks to complete the pass down the bottom side and does. And that's the interesting thing when it comes to this circuit. Clean air vital, of course, but it's also a track where multiple groups can come into play. However, Matt Taylor, he's showing he wants to run away from the play time. He's up by nearly 2 seconds already, and we're not at lap 10 yet, mind you.
Yeah, Taylor's absolutely using this clean air to his advantage. He's just trying to run away as fast as he can. Michael Goodman trying to keep him honest, but that dirty air that you get at the big tracks, it's even worse here where you're so reliant on downforce, and even though you have those big wings, the aero push is such a big factor, especially when you have a clean air driver in front of you like Taylor is right now. But back here in the pack, this is where all the action is. Jacob Oster is in a hornet's nest right now.
See Oster amongst those, trying to charge ahead in the rookie campaign. Up 4 spots. Alexis Newsom is on the box for the number 9 machine. Remember, came to a bit of strategy at the Milwaukee Mile last year, as well as trying to keep yourself out of the attrition. That's going to be helpful, having that assistance, to have someone with the experience to be able to slice and dice through 3 wide like this.
Oh, that's a little bit too early for me to be supporting that 3-wide action, but if these drivers are comfortable with it, they've made it work so far. But I'm sure that Jacob Oster would rather they settle down just a little bit, or at least until he gets through this field. But he's definitely on the move, and he's looking to go even further up. I think that's Dean Mull falling 1 more position down to Jacob Oster here.
Keep in mind when it comes to the fuel window, when talking a bit about the strategy that came into play last year, this year's fuel window stints are projected around 52 to 53 laps. Expected to be a 3-stopper depending on how the cautions fly here at the Milwaukee Mile today. Still looking in the middle of the pack, a little bit of a close call as DeMay tries to clear himself across the front nose of Mull, who has dropped 16, how about 17 spots now in the battle with Dupree.
Yeah, this has definitely not been the start that Dean Mull needed or wanted. He just doesn't seem to like that car, but he can't. I think he's just not comfortable on that high line, but he can't seem to find a way to get back down onto the low line. Meanwhile, looking up a little bit further up the grid, battle for 13th here. Shane Coogan, Jeff Xiong, Gavin Sanders, and Trevor Malone, your points leader, all going at it here. Side by side, Sanders and Xiong through turn 1 and 2. They've been side by side for a good 2 laps there before Sanders finally makes the pass work there.
And you mentioned that passing could be difficult. In the pack, it seems it's very busy. Coogan in particular getting the run right here on Ricky Harden, for a good example. But it seems to be where you want to be able to settle on down to avoid said runs. You see how much time even this pack is losing to the next car in front of Harden.
Absolutely. It's so tempting to fight the cars around you because you see them just trying to drive away from you. You see them fighting all around you, but at the same time, it's costing you speed, it's costing you time, and it's allowing the likes of Matt Taylor and Michael Goodman and Tony Schowen up front to just run away from this field here. And I would be surprised, Justin, if very soon we actually start getting some traffic as well.
Remember how big Errol Wash can be when it comes to traffic on the short tracks. I want to give a quick shout out to the 99 because we've seen him make himself known in the Speedway Series this season. He also just so happens to also run a lot of short track action as part of various different leagues, so he's been trying to make waves in several different facets of the service on iRacing at the same time, short tracks and in open wheelers.
Yeah, absolutely, and they synergize here today for Michael Goodman, but he's definitely one of those strong drivers that you always expect to see him at or near the front. He does particularly well in qualifying it, and he's joined up this year with Tony Schowen and Joe Branch of Powerslide Motorsports for the first time, and I think that's really helping him in terms of the race strategy as well. That's
actually huge, especially since under our banners he does run our 8-Ball Motorsports too, to be able to help him develop down long term on the sim. Looking at the mid-pack you still see on screen, Jeff Chion with the purple car today, trying to battle against some blue machines. And keep in mind, when it comes to some various races over the weekend and various series, blue cars usually were prone to attrition. So far, the blue cars looking pretty strong in the mid-pack.
Yeah, there are a number of blue cars here today, and fortunately we've been able to keep them all clean so far, but just look at that track map at the bottom there, Justin. You can see that 8 car of Matt Taylor is getting so close to the back of this field. We're really starting to get into traffic for just about everyone here.
Yeah, and that's going to really potentially open things up for Goodman, for Tony Schowen, who's 3 seconds back of the race lead, potentially when they all have to try and get around groupings like that. Here's the look at Taylor. Under 154 laps to go already in this race, and already can pick up a little bit of the difference now that he's got a bit of whiffs of draft. He was running on average in the 22.4s the past 5 laps. He just ran a lap 2/10 slower, and he's still 10 car lengths back of the last car on track.
It just goes to show just how much that air wash really affects these cars. So the honeymoon phase is over for Matt Taylor. Now it's down to work, and he's going to have to find his way through all of this lap traffic that you see in front of him. One thing to note, Justin, is Dean Mall has pulled it onto pit lane here, and it looks like he has maybe some damage that we didn't detect on camera, and that could have been why he was falling back so abruptly through the field.
So Dean Mall's day going from rough to not great at all in the turn of about 24 laps already. Here's a look at the replay. That's going to do it with Dean Mall. He was in the midst of battling before that duck in. He's out of the car, in fact, doing the 23.
Meanwhile,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, meanwhile, we've got some serious side-by-side action. Dakota DeMade and AJ Musselman, they've been going at it for a number of laps here. DeMade really wants to make that outside work, but Musselman is making the low line work, and he's not letting DeMade have that outside for granted there.
Lots of hard fighting at the back of the grouping. Remember, these leaders will have to pass by these cars in a little bit since they are only a couple turns behind. DeMade trying to find a way to get himself forward here. Wait from all this. Musselman trying to run the bottom. Wood, he's been stuck in the back all day. Here's a look now. And some of the more hard-charging attempts from Big Joe Hassert this time to the inside, yes.
We've seen Big Joe Hassert make lunges like that before, and that was definitely a patented Big Joe lunge, but Musselman is now holding the outside line here, and it really does seem like that outside line, you're just able to roll the corner just slightly better than that inside line, and even though it does look like Hassert has a fair bit of speed under him here today, he's just not able to get around on that inside line here.
Yeah, it seems like the outside line showing some good grip, the bottom's showing some good grip. It seems like it's been difficult to make moves. See right there, Anzaldo trying to build up a run high side with a bit of clean air and use a bit of the ramp of the banking. Not able to close up and in quite yet in the 20s still. And a bit of contact, Anzaldo having a check up. Dupree avoids a bit of damage there. Wood also gets checked up in that. No caution, we stay green, just a little scrapes on the end plate.
Yeah, that was a big according effect going into turn 1 there, and Anzaldo came out of the worst of it, but it does look like I think everyone did escape damage there, but that was very tense moments, and we got very lucky that we didn't bring out our first caution of the race.
Very, very lucky indeed. Matt Taylor, by the way, still has a 1.3 second advantage, but it is shrinking in quickly with the traffic. He took a bit of time to get around Munoz. You see having a bit more space to work with behind now, yes, but Goodman, he's closing in and has been getting by the traffic a little bit quicker than the 8.
Yeah, Goodman is so far really just done a great job of getting around traffic. And one of the things is, as the leader, these lap cars, they don't want to go a lap down, because once you go a lap down on a mile of speedway, it's very, very difficult to get your lap back. So they're probably going to be fighting Matt Taylor really hard to try and stay on the lead lap. Meanwhile, once Goodman gets to them, they're no longer as worried about trying to stay on the lead lap. They won't fight him nearly as hard as they're fighting Taylor, and it will definitely be towards Goodman's advantage.
See, some of the battling amongst that traffic, too, is for third. Nunez, with his best run of the season, dives his way to third. Can he make the corner fully, though? He's going hard into it. He does, as the traffic makes its way to the bottom to let them go. What a run for Nunez so far. His best qualifying performance of the year. His cleanest run so far. He's shown great speed on this track tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Great driving from Luis Gonzalez Nunez there. Definitely the strongest that I've seen him in some time. And you can definitely see, as we watch Nunez and Schoen go through these corners, you can just see how different a line they're both going into this corner. Nunez really arcing it in there. Tony took a shallower line, and you can see how much the car pushes out on exit for Tony Schoen there. So it just goes to show you that there's more than one way around a track like Milwaukee, and it really is down to the driver, and Luis Gonzalez Nunez doing a great job so far.
Meanwhile, let's take the chance to look towards Paul Jenkins, who's having a solid run in the mid-pack. He is your MOZA Racing driver to watch in feature tonight. 17 starts in the series so far, 4 top 10s, 1 top 5. That coming at New Hampshire. He showed good pace on the short tracks in the past. He's having a strong run tonight for a driver profile, looking to back that up tonight.
Jenkins is another one that the short tracks definitely are one of his strong suits. You can see his best finish, obviously, at that New Hampshire track. He really is one of those drivers that he doesn't need to push quite so hard when he's at a short track, and that rhythm that you get into, it just lends himself to his style of racing on these ovals. So I definitely expect Jenkins to have a strong showing here today.
He's currently inside the top 10. By the way, we mentioned about, once you let the leader go, traffic will be a little more courteous to some. Goodman just lost a second trying to pass by 2 cars, and Nunez is now within the draft of him.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part with traffic, is they might be more willing to let you go by when it's one-on-one, but when there's 2 cars going side by side, they want to fight because they're fighting for position as well. But we've got some early pit stops here. It looks like Gabriel Wood, and I believe that's Mike Gibson also on pit lane here.
Both of them rolling the dice here. An interesting call, because remember last year in particular, the talking point was trying to make sure you stay out as long as you could in case you get trapped under yellow, because when you pit, you can lose a couple laps because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 2 laps down, not 1 for a trip down pit lane here. But one of the things with Wood and Gibson is they were a little bit farther back in the field, and I think that they just need that fresh rubber on their tires to really start trying to generate some traction towards the front of this race. So if we stay green here, and that is a big if, so far so good, but if we stay green, it could all cycle through for them, and they could end up using this undercut to their advantage, but it is a big risk for sure.
They're running about the 20s so far tonight, struggling to get by some of the traffic. We'll see how it plays out for them, the big picture of things. Meanwhile, James Watson, he wants a chance to move around the 11th spot again. He lost this spot that time by, this time by his colorful machine dives to the inside again. Watson side by side and passing by Hardin. As talked about, Watson no more so for a road course racing ability as well as off-track run in terms of pro truck racing, showing some decent speed so far in open wheelers as the 2 have got those in.
Yeah, I think Watson is definitely starting to get acclimated to these cars. There's definitely a learning curve, especially with the DW12 on ovals, about how to drive it and how to drive it well and consistently. I think he's shown definitely some speed, but this is the first time really that I've seen the consistent type of run throughout a full fuel stint from Watson. So really good job, strong run in 11th place for him right now.
He's won several overall championships on the iRacing service and Pro 2 light trucks in the past. He's won a couple division championships in dirt racing in general, the ovals. Oh, and that's while also winning a PM18 championship, top 3 running about a year or so ago. So he can drive a lot of different cars, and he showed good pace in the league scene in IndyCar machinery. currently looking for his best run of the year in Lionheart competition, as he nearly plows into the wall to emphasize that point. Harden says, "I'll take the spot back to finish your point."
And all that work is undone with just that one small mistake, and it's such an easy mistake to make at this point in the fuel run. These tires are really, really suffering, but Watson is not letting Harden just have that position. He's going back towards that inside. This time, though, I think Harden might just be able to hang tight on the outside here.
Harden able to do so, yes indeed, but look who's also in the mix this again now for 12-foot checkup for Coogan. And Coogan, he's been making a lot of passes, Andrew. However, he hasn't gained a single spot from where he started. In fact, Gavin Sanders with a chance to potentially make it a -1 on the night.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're so intent on the car in front of you, and then suddenly the car behind you is right on your tail and looking to take advantage of just a small mistake. So you really have to be aware of all of your surroundings, and there's a lot of coming and going on a track like this, in a race like this, where we get this long green flag run and the tires start to go away. Small mistakes is really what kills your momentum and costs you positions.
Pit window expected to open back up in a moment or so. Will Gibson's indicated he wanted to pit. However, he was side by side with the leader, and Matt Taylor amongst all that. The lead, as a result of all the traffic in front of the red and black machine, the lead's gone from nearly 3 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Gibson goes in, 2 and 3 wide down the backstretch.
Yeah, that was some tense moments coming out of turn 2 there with Matt Wagner, Gavin Sanders, and Shane Coogan taking a -2 on that one maneuver from the two competitors there. But Gavin Sanders, he's really looking strong as well here, Justin. He's one of those drivers. He was strong at Homestead. He worked some strategy at Texas, but this is really a run that we've been looking for him to put together and really get a full fuel run and move his way through the field, because we know he's definitely one of the faster drivers here.
More pit stops: Jeff Shion, Matthew Short, Chris Fowler, Ron Hacker, several more calling in or coming in. Interested to see how long the pit stop is for the 20, because right as you're making that point, Andrew, he made side pod to side pod contact with Paul Jenkins. No damage repair, though. He looks okay. Nunez, Hawkins III also jump in.
Of course, these cars are on the old damage model, so there are much fewer repairable items on these cars compared to your IR18 these days. But hopefully no damage on Chris Fowler, no wing damage certainly, but we definitely are in the thick of the pit stop cycle. Taylor is on pit lane here, as long as Goodman.
Something's happened to Tony Schowen. The leader is in, yes, but Schowen, who was in the top 3, has gone in the wall because someone exiting the pit lane spun up the track, and Schowen bounced off of him. No caution, no. We stay green, but Schowen is out of contention the rest of the way.
What an unfortunate incident for Tony Schowen. This is the second week in a row for him after he was caught up in that whole Andrew Wood debacle at the end of last race. This is the second week in a row that someone has just spun out right in front of him and left him absolutely nowhere to go. You can see just that right straight, hook straight right there. I'm not sure who that driver was on the apron. It was Will Gibson. And yeah, there's a big bump on that apron there, and it's a very, very flat. So I think when he hit that bump, it just pitched him sideways and straight into the path of Tony Schowen, and just so unfortunate for him because he was doing so well.
And the sounds say it all. Will Gibson way loose on that pit access road, hitting the grass, and this is not a very easy exit to get around. It's very easy to clip the grass. Some drivers I've already seen have lit up the tires getting onto the gas on that apron tonight.
Yeah, it's one of the trickier pit outs in all of iRacing, just between the bumps, between the grass, and how narrow it is, and also just how close the cars on track get to you. Yep. Because you can see just how close. There are some drivers who will even put 2 tires on that yellow curb there, so it is just so tricky to get out of.
Speaking of things closing up, Luis Gonzalez Nunez went for a 1-lap undercut. Well, before, Craig Forsyth, thanks to the pit lane in between them, it was down to a 0.7 of a second gap between Taylor and Nunez. Luis Gonzalez Nunez has used strategy to get himself up there. Forsyth on his exit nearly looped it himself before. That broke up the battle for the race lead a bit.
Yeah, but Luis Gonzalez Nunez is definitely on a mission here today, Justin. He is not letting Matt Taylor out of his sights, and he's disposed of that Craig Forsyth traffic, and he is just hounding the back of Matt Taylor and just pulling in lap by lap here. So I think we're in for a little bit of a fight here in the next few laps.
Heavy traffic to deal with, though, because James Watson's in the mix there. You also have him getting checked up, in fact, by him. Also having to find a way around in the next lap or so, George Enzaldo. Keep in mind, when it comes to a few of the drivers, Watson had a 1 minute and 21 second stop. The lengthiest of anybody. Ryan Eric King had to make a wing change. Sam Crow has just completed the first pit stop window. 2 more pit stops expected for the rest of the race here today. As you see the track map, very congested as we talked about. Not going to be easy to find clean air to get yourself a breakaway like some of the drivers have.
No, it really isn't. And especially with all the green flag running that we've done, this is just contributing to that traffic. And it is sort of an equalizing factor, I think, Justin, is you have to be, oh no.
This is why Watson had a 1 minute and 21 second sequence. He spins it on the access road. And guess what? If you pass that yellow rumble strip at all, that counts as an unsafe pit exit. Technically, I believe that would count for it, and he in fact towed it on top of that instead of backing it up into the grass.
Yeah, I think that he knew that his options were take a penalty there for an unsafe pit exit or take the tow, and it probably amounted to basically the same amount of time on pit lane for him. So don't blame him for taking the tow there. Definitely saved us some time. But Luis Gonzalez Nunez, he is carving his way, actually right around Watson here, carving his way through this field right now.
1 lap car separating the top 2 drivers now. Nunez just has to find a way around Enzaldo to have a shot at battling with the number 8. Nunez, he has been a rocket ship tonight. His quickest laps have been on average on the 22.2s. Taylor with the clean air in the 21.8s, yes. But it's been Nunez who's been quicker than the race leader on average by up to 0.2 a lap since the pit stop sequence.
And it's all about mastering that traffic, and I really think that Luis Gonzalez Nunez, his line is really good for getting around people and getting through the traffic quickly. And Matt Taylor is just not able to quite get through it as fast as Luis Gonzalez Nunez. That being said, Nunez is still struggling to get around George Enzaldo, although I think he might just be by him now.
Traffic divot, traffic take. Enzaldo actually still side by side with Nunez. Taylor has his first clean air pocket in a little while, albeit off the draft Musselman. Battle for 12th, a bit of contact up the racetrack into the side pod, creating Carter. Lap traffic 31st, getting shoved up.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a please get out of my way shove there, and they were both lucky to get away with that, but Carter is definitely sort of in that hornet's nest. Trevor Malone is the next driver to try and get around Carter here, and it's just one of those cases where there's really nowhere for this lap traffic to hide. There's no good and easy way to let these drivers by without losing massive amounts of time here. So Carter's doing a good job just staying on that outside line, but sometimes these drivers can definitely get impatient.
Nunez now has got himself some clean space. Taylor is still riding behind AJ Musselman, though. Will this help the 14 close back on up? He is now within 8/10 once again. He's really strong on corner exit, especially off turn 4. In the heart of the pack, meanwhile, Andrew Wood tries to make his crusade forward still. The Synergy Machine is now up 20 spots after his EOL and point penalty from Texas.
Andrew Wood has done a fantastic job to get through this field so far, but you can just see how much time, looking at that timing screen, how much that EOL is really costing here. He's a full 15 seconds back of Matt Taylor, even though he's been turning really fast laps. He's been trying to follow along with Jacob Oster here through this field, and he's so far been basically in his wheel tracks basically since this last pit cycle happened. But no!
Into the back end. Caution flag is out. That is Gonzalo Munoz, who is upside down now in 1 and 2. And we're under yellow for the first time tonight for the MOZA Racing Milwaukee 175.
My oh my, we were on board with Andrew Wood there, and it just looks like Wood probably gets in there a little bit, probably turns in a little bit later than Munoz thought he would. But then again, Munoz turned in fairly early for this corner. So I think it's one of those racing deals here, Justin, where car on the high side tried to go a little bit low, car on the low side tried to stay up, and they both just came together there, and Munoz definitely got the worst of that deal there.
Seeing the onboard from Samuel Ryman, who had to take evasive action. Here's an air look from the helicopter cam. You see in the slow motion how close it got an entry? Bye-bye race car. You see how much the wing just flips around as it hits around the track. Upside down goes the blue, white, and red machine. Under yellow for the first time tonight. But pit strategy has come out. Massive gambles by a lot of drivers here. It's a tight one stop from here. Nunez, Rigney, Fowler all decided to stay out, as well as Coogan and Oster. Everybody else has taken service.
Yeah, I'm really surprised by Nunez, Rigney, and Fowler. I definitely think this is the wrong call. What's the saying, Justin? Cautions breed cautions, and a tight one-stopper can very easily turn into a comfortable one-stopper. And it's really, I'm not liking this call from Nunez, Rigney, and Fowler here.
Yeah, this is really interesting, this decision by some of these drivers here. How this could play out. A few drivers are electing to come back down, keep in mind. As a result, some of them not able to get waves. AJ Musselman, who was just lapped before the caution, will take the wave around the iRacing pace car. Everyone else who is a lap down having to come down and take service here to keep themselves on said cycles. So that put us at about 21 drivers on the lead lap projected. The first driver 1 lap down, George Anzaldo. But remember last year, strategy came into play when it came to the race at the Milwaukee Mile. It's almost trending back that direction again when it comes to the fuel mileage now.
Yeah, you always have to be so conscious of your strategy on an oval track in an Indy car. There's just so many small, subtle details to having and picking the right strategy and making it work. And it's moments like these that really can define your race one way or the other. So it'll be interesting to see how all of these calls play out. But again, I like the call to pit in on this caution here.
Me too. But the thing is, how far back were Coogan and Oster? They actually cycled behind Matt Taylor. Yes, Taylor's advantage was so big, along with Nunez for that race lead, that they finished their entire service under caution and cycled ahead of 2 of the drivers who elected to stay out in that window. And from what it looks like now, they will have to start behind Taylor. So 1 lap to go into the restart. Nunez, Rigney, Fowler, Taylor, Coogan, the top 5.
Yeah, massive advantage here for Matt Taylor. Not only does he have the fresher tires, but he also has 2 cars between himself and Michael Goodman, who's the next car on those fresh tires. So this is exactly the type of play that Matt Taylor really wanted to see here, and he is going to have to get after it as quickly as he can to try and get back to that Luis Gonzalez Nunez car.
There is plenty of traffic, though, as well between second and third. Mike Rigney's up there in second, I should say. You have Anzaldo separating for the race leader, as well as Forsythe to Rigney. iRacing pace car ready to drop off. Time to go back racing from the Milwaukee Mile. Back underway. Bit of a checkup from second on back. Everybody else onto the loud pedal well. Nice and clean off the launch. Taylor already ready to make some moves, as well as several others. Taylor trying to position himself for the battle for third up the road.
Yeah, this was exactly the type of restart that Matt Taylor really needed. He's already on the back of Chris Fowler and looking to use those fresh tires to their maximum advantage while they're still as fresh as possible. And it already looks like he's up in the 3rd position here cleanly, and he'll clear him coming off of turn 2 here.
Caution. Caution flag is back out. More trouble in the heart of the pack. We're under yellow, and it is Jacob Oster, who just stayed under the last caution. He has been turned around by Michael Goodman for the 2nd yellow.
This is the danger of staying out on old tires, is Goodman is trying to race his way back up towards the front of this field, and Oster, he just didn't have the grip to have his car stick into turn 1 here. You can just see as we ride down the front stretch with Michael Goodman here, Goodman tries to go underneath him, Oster coming down, and then Goodman just pushes up just a little bit, and that's all she wrote for Jacob Oster.
And can confirm it was bad enough to break the chassis because he has a meatball flag. He also had to put his car on the tow truck in turns 3 and 4. Here's an aerial look at it. Goodman, second on the pit strategy, dives underneath, and boom, to the side pod.
Yeah, and Goodman, I think he just carried just a little bit too much speed through there and just traveled up the track. Oster really didn't do anything wrong there, but again, it's just the danger of the strategy that Jacob Oster was on, having these fast cars so anxious to try to get around you. Stuff like this can happen, and it's just an unfortunate way for Jacob Oster's season to continue here.
We know how quick Jacob can be, but Jacob has not had the luck go his direction this year, to say the very least, as we're under caution for the second time, under 100 laps to go. Andrew Wood, AJ Musselman have both topped off. Here's what happened after Oster realized how bad the damage was. Yeah, that machine was very broken, unfortunately for him tonight. So now we reset the field essentially with that, and Zotto and Forsyth are still lap traffic between first and second on circuit. But keep in mind, there are now 5 drivers who have to try and hope for some more cautions at the right times to make it on a one-stop to the end on the same cycle as their competitors here. I don't know how this could play out, Andrew. How can this play out?
Yeah, I think that if you're Matt Taylor, you're just smiling right now because not only did you get that much closer to Luis Gonzalez-Nunez in the lead, but you're also that much closer to making it on this one stop. Whereas if you're Luis Gonzalez-Nunez, this was the worst possible thing to happen. You really needed to try and run away from this field here on this restart and have as much green flag running as possible and to try and build that gap to Matt Taylor as big as possible, and this is not helping your cause right now.
It's been an intriguing night, and we talked a bit about some of the race details earlier tonight in terms of the history of this facility with this chassis. Of course, the 10 cautions last campaign, 4 were set back in seasons 3 and 5. The most lead changes were set back in season 5 of the Lionheart IndyCar series with this chassis. And I remember a few drivers in particular were trying to mention remember the 17 here. So I know how infamous and touchy that can be for Lionheart.
Yes, it was one of those races that you just kind of want to forget here. It was definitely not Lionheart's finest race that we've ever witnessed on YouTube here, but it's definitely one that we've learned from, and clearly we are in no danger of touching that here today.
So far, just 2 cautions so far. Very calm for the most part, with a lot of busy battles in between. But Nunez, Rigney, Taylor, Fowler, Coogan, the top 5. Goodman still in 6th. Hawkins the 3rd. Branch, Ron Hacker, along with Matt Wagner, the top 10. Amongst some of the biggest movers, Andrew Wood plus 17, AJ Musselman plus 10. Joe Hassard, who is a lap down, is plus 9 in 23rd, as well as Matt Wagner, up 9 also. 97 laps to go from iRacing's virtual Milwaukee Mile. It's time to go back racing. Luis Gonzalez-Nunez in control of the field. Green flag's back out. Another rough start for Rigney.
Yeah, Rigney just isn't timing that very well, and it's allowing the cars in front to get away. But meanwhile, we've got a bit of a hornet's nest here. Michael Goodman round the outside here. That was a strong power move from Goodman, but it'll be interesting to see whether he faces any supplementary discipline here, and all of this running could be for naught, but he definitely looks like he's got a fast car under him right now.
Race controls confirmed that will be reviewed post-race what just happened the previous caution, but Vern Hawkins the 3rd really struggling in the aero watch last corner, able to defend though for 7th on Joe Branch. Look from the rear wing, Hawkins trying to dive underneath with the front wing for 6th again.
Oh, that was a dangerous move there. There was very little room there between the two of them, and margins are so thin, especially on a restart like this. You're trying so hard to try and get these positions up and do whatever you can, and then you have a small mistake like that, and then bam, Joe Branch looking to take 7th away from Vern Hawkins.
And keep in mind, Coogan is amongst those who stayed out the previous cautions, who has to pit within the next 20 to 30 laps. They are not looking comfortable for the fuel margins. Look on board, this is Ron Hacker for Synergy Motorsports. We've seen him go backwards a little bit earlier, getting himself back in the footing of things in that silverish white, blue, and black machine. Meanwhile, in Matt Taylor land, he has 2x2 in front of them. Rigney trying to clear by traffic. He does with Enzotto.
Yeah, this is... Matt Taylor really needs to get by these cars as quickly as possible here. Luis Gonzalez Nunez nearly 2 seconds out in front of Mike Rigney here. 2.5 back to Matt Taylor, but this is really the last major obstacle, I think, for Taylor in Georgia and Zaldo, and then now it's a fight for position with Rigney, so this is so important that he gets these moves done soon and not let Luis Gonzalez Nunez escape here.
Especially even with the strategy difference, the track position being so vital, as we've seen throughout the night tonight, where if you start towards the back, a lot of drivers have struggled to claw their way out of the 20s, or in some cases the teens, and maintain those said spots. Keep in mind as well some of the air battles going on. 12th position has been heavy when it comes to Hardin and Sanders fighting as well, and several more trying to settle things on down, including Michael Goodman. He tries to charge ahead from 4th. But the MOZA Racing Milwaukee 175 continues on Race Spot TV and ESTV right after these messages. You're watching the action from the virtual Milwaukee Mile in the state of Wisconsin. Your race leader, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, by 1.65 seconds over Mike Rigney, Matt Taylor, Michael Goodman, Chris Fowler, after halfway.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back to RaceSpot TV and ESTV for coverage of the Lionheart Speedway Series and the MOZA Racing Milwaukee 175 from iRacing's virtual Milwaukee Mile. Justin Prince, Andrew Kinsella with you with our producer Arjuna Kankipati, as Luis Gonzalez Nunez in his roll of the strategy dice still has him out in front by nearly 2 seconds over Mike Rigney, Matt Taylor, Michael Goodman, Chris Fowler, the top 5. But the concern has to be real for some drivers. The fuel window is approaching for all those who risk staying out despite being at the very edge of the one-stop window. This is a risky time for some of these drivers now up at the very front.
Absolutely. This is the time where really Luis Gonzalez Nunez, he can't do anything about it now, so he's got to just be focused on going as quickly as possible. But you look way back in the field to the likes of Andrew Wood, some of these drivers who topped off on that last caution, they're really sitting pretty right now.
For reference, Andrew Wood's 16th position back to a plus 20 for him. You take a look at the battle for 11th. This was where some of the battling was getting pretty busy before the break. Gavin Sanders amongst those, trying to get around the traffic of George Anzaldo. It's also worth noting that some drivers are indicating they'll have to pit soon. In fact, Will Gibson, who is several laps down, has pit. Here's a look, though, with the battle for second. Rigney, who is on that different strategy, trying a different line. How about below the rumble strip in turns 1 and 2 in the battle for second?
That was an interesting line there from Mike Rigney. I've never particularly found that bump down there that appealing there, but he's now given Matt Taylor the opportunity to get his nose in there, and I think that's all the invitation Matt Taylor needed. This should be P2 for Matt Taylor, and he will be setting off in search of Luis Gonzalez Nunez now.
Rigney currently about 10 laps at best around that fuel mark. Joliast will come down. The estimate's not looking pretty for those who have risked the stay-out strategy for the track position. Take a look, some of those battling for some of it still. Amongst those, Trevor Malone, a close call. Big Joe Hassert contact. Ricky Harden having a dodge left from it.
That was such close racing there. And Joe Hassert is definitely one of those drivers that is not afraid to get very close to other drivers here. Sam Ryman in the popcorn position here. Ricky Harden, Big Joe Hassert. It's one of those pairings that can definitely probably make you a little bit nervous, as evidenced by that hard-in-the-wall sticker on the back of Ricky Harden's wing there.
That's in reference to his Twitch channel, of course, and he's had some hard hits in this series as of late. In 2021 in particular, with some big crashes. He's been picking up more and more speed, though, especially in Speedway competition this season. Keep in mind the driver they've been fighting with, Joe Hassert, is in 23rd, 1 lap down. But with 74 laps to go, a couple drivers might be starting to look towards that pit lane. Amongst those, keep in mind, Nunez, but also Fowler, Rigney. Shane Coogan also in that window. Craig Forsyth, who is a lap down, is also at risk of having a pit in the next few laps or so. In fact, Nunez is coming in this time. The race leader has indicated on the radio he is pitting with a 3-second advantage. He is going to have to try and make a 2-stopper work in what is looking to be a 1-stop fuel mileage race.
Yeah, so this is now the danger zone for Luis Gonzalez Nunez. He does not need or want a caution before Matt Taylor comes down for what we presume to be the final time. Then he needs a caution that will somehow allow him to get back on sequence with Taylor, but it really doesn't look good for Nunez at this point.
8.2 seconds, a quick stop. In fact, 8 seconds on the dot. In the lane, about 25 seconds. And as a result of that pit stop sequence, he has lost 1 lap. But that's the beauty of being the race leader with the advantage. He is 1.2 laps down, essentially, on circuit in the mix with some of the race leaders. Outside of that, looking okay-ish, but needs it to stay green, as you mentioned, with Taylor about 15 laps or so out from the fuel window.
Yeah. Now, I will say this, if he can find the speed in that car and the ability to get through the traffic and pass by Matt Taylor, suddenly that becomes the best case scenario for Luis Gonzalez Nunez. So these fresh tires this time right now is probably the most important of Luis Gonzalez Nunez's race.
Chris Fowler also just dunked into the pit lane this time by, and keep in mind, green flag pit stops at Milwaukee were a bit of a tough one last year. This year, drivers are really seem to nail this pit entry, I've noticed. Not too many major lockups on the entry, No spins into the entry, like we've seen a couple drivers last year. It's been nice and clean getting yourself into that yellow line inside that tight wall for the pit stop.
Yeah, the setup definitely has a little bit more rear-end grip this year, and that's, I think, helping them just get through that final corner and avoid... There's a very big bump on the exit of Turn 4 that if you hit it wrong, it can pitch you sideways no matter what setup you have, but I think they've been doing a good job at avoiding that so far, and it's allowed for some really clean pit entries. But there's Matt Taylor on screen, but right in the background of that shot back there, that was Luis Gonzalez Nunez. He's really closing up on the back of Matt Taylor right now using those fresh tires.
And Michael Goodman is saying, remember me? He was in the conversation battle for the race lead before the first green flag pit stop window. As Rigney comes on down, Goodman is battling for first on the racetrack now. Goodman with a chance to battle for the race lead for the first time since lap 30.
But here comes Luis Gonzalez Nunez, and you can see visually just how much he was able to get up onto the back of Michael Goodman just through that one corner alone. Look at how hard Luis Gonzalez Nunez is running that car into these corners. He's using those fresh tires for all they're worth. Meanwhile, Craig Forsyth, now last car on the lead lap, does not want to let Matt Taylor by here. And he is making life very, very difficult for the race first driver.
Forsyth actually has to come in. He's indicated he'll have to pull on in. Taylor had taken a high line for evasive action. And in comes the blue and white machine. But as you talked about, Nunez looking to unlap himself here. That will be step one to help his strategy here. Step two, though, is still hope it goes green, because if you get a caution around the time everyone can make it on the gas, that is a net loss on track position from the race lead of 16 spots.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really treacherous times for Luis Gonzalez Nunez. He's really got to come up lucky, I think, in terms of the caution time if he has a legitimate shot at winning this race, certainly with how strong Goodman and Taylor have been on their strategy. We are, of course, assuming that they can make it, and I do think that we're getting very close to that point, but we should find that out soon in the next, I would say the next 10 laps or so.
You mentioned the 10 laps. That's at the very upper echelons of the fuel window we projected earlier, keep in mind. The most anyone went during that opening run, about 57, 58 laps. It is doable to make sure you can go to the end, but it's still a tough ask, Andrew, for some drivers if you haven't been efficiently using those fuel mappings and saving a bit.
Yeah, and this is a track where you can potentially save a lot, but you do tend to lose a lot of time, and there isn't very much time to lose here with the laps as quick as they are. We're talking 21-second laps. It's very, very difficult to save fuel if you have to. So saving whenever you can during this middle stint will be very important for the drivers trying to extend as long as possible here.
Remember an open wheel race here a couple of years ago when it came to Milwaukee Mile 2. Someone was so desperate to save their gas, they tried to clutch and coast it in a Dallara IndyCar. They lost about a lap's worth of time in about 10 laps. It's not like stock car racing where you can save with the clutch and coast.
Yeah, no, you definitely need the force from the engine because you have so much downforce and drag from these wings that it just will not roll through these corners. There's an incident in turn 3 here.
The 28th place driver, it's Carter, and this changes everything. We're under caution as the 71 brings out the third yellow of the day. 2 laps down was Creighton Carter. He gets a little bit of help from George Anzaldo.
Yeah, that was right off the nose of George Anzaldo, and he nearly was able to keep it straight there and avoid the caution, but then just at the last instant there, you see the car pitch around. Here we ride on board with George Anzaldo down the back straightaway here. And I don't think he realized just how slowly Creighton would be going through this corner here, because he really was going slow on that outside line and just really left George with nowhere to go.
Remember those fuel numbers you just mentioned? We're about a couple laps away from those numbers, so all of a sudden, we have a good old-fashioned Lionheart Speedway Series fuel mileage race at the Milwaukee Mile, it looks like possibly for some. The race leader's coming on in, and the tough thing for Luis Gonzalez Nunez, he didn't get his lap back before the caution.
Yep, so he'll have to rely on the wave around here, and that puts him at an even further disadvantage because there's no possible way that he can make a pit stop under this caution. So not only is he at the back of the lead lap here, but he's also still on the wrong pit strategy. So really, he's hoping for another really quick caution that will allow him to come down and get fueled up and maybe, just maybe, work himself back through this field. But we've seen just how hard it is to pass the likes of Andrew Wood only up to 9th place after he's been working all day long to try and get through the field.
Interestingly enough, Andrew Wood and AJ Musselman both are still on the racetrack. And I'm curious if they're going to come in this time by. Keep in mind,
I would suspect that they are, yes.
Yeah, you have to think so, because they wouldn't be able to make it their 44 laps in their respective stint. That would cycle Taylor up in front. Or we can have Andrew Wood still stay on the racetrack. This is a call from the 64.
This is definitely a call. We know that Andrew Wood's normal team, which is private label Team Hype and Team Talent, have had interesting history with the pits in the past. I'm not sure what Andrew Wood is doing here, to be honest. I think that he should have come down pit lane and topped off there, unless he's trying to do it with 1 to green. That would be my only.
But there's a problem with that. If you try and go towards the 1 to green, coming to 1 to green, if the pit lane is closed for you in the sim, that is a green flag penalty for pitting with the pit lane closed.
Yep. So yeah, I'm not sure what Andrew Wood's doing here, because no matter what, if we get a caution, it won't work out for him, because then he'll go to the back of the line and there'll be some wave arounds here that he'll be behind. And by staying out, he definitely has to pit again. So yeah, I'm not in support of this call at all.
The only way I can think of this playing out is they're thinking people will have to save, and they're hoping to come in or get a quick caution where everyone else then tops in. That's the only thing can think about here. We'll say this as well, though. On top of Nunez having to take the wave, a couple others are back in the lead lap with the wave. Rigney and Fowler are also making the same call. Shane Coogan is pinned a lap down, though, because of Andrew Wood staying out here. He's between Wood and Musselman. Matt Taylor is 3rd in on the pylon, 4th on the track. Then it's Goodman, Hawkins the 3rd, Branch. Then you have Gonzo 27th in front of Matt Wagner, Ron Hacker, Paul Jenkins, Gavin Sanders, the top 10. Who's ready for some strategy once again in the Speedway Series? There are plenty of fuel mileage races in 2021. The Milwaukee Mile put on the site for one potential fuel mileage race at one point. iRacing, all set to go. The pace car. Off the track, green flag is out, back underway. Nice and clean for Andrew Wood up at the front of the field. Behind them, Paul Jenkins, and not so much. He's loose in front of the field. Caution is out. Several more spin. Paul Jenkins up in the air as everyone else smacks its way into the pack.
That was the big one, and I do think that Luis Gonzalez Nunez might have also been caught up in that. So while he was looking for a quick caution, not in this manner, and Jenkins just gets loose on that inside line, takes out Ricky Harden, and then bam, what an impact that was. And you can see the green and white car on the outside there. Luis Gonzalez Nunez nearly gets through it, but just at that last instant gets hit. And then Chris Fowler also collected in that one as well. So a number of different cars will have a significant amount of damage.
Can confirm Nunez, significant damage. Watson involved. Right there, Chris Fowler, right into the mix of things, straight off the wave around. In fact, just about everybody who tried that different strategy, all were in that incident. And as a result, Wood and Musselman are good to go on fuel. Everybody else staying out.
Yeah, and this is exactly why you wanted to pit if you were Andrew Wood, is because you have this quick caution. And yes, you'll be able to make it comfortably from here, but you're going to have to fight your way through a good 15 cars to get back into the lead of the race. Meanwhile, you could have been much closer to your goal without coming down pit lane there, or if you'd come down pit lane on that last caution. So It definitely doesn't work out for a number of these drivers, but the driver it does work out for, Matt Taylor, resumes the lead of the race with Michael Goodman right on his tail.
And with no lap cars in between. On the bright side for Shane Coogan, he gets his lap back as well here with this. Not the way he probably expected with the quickie yellow. But you have to feel for Gonzalez Nunez. Looked to be in the driver's seat much of the race, with the pace looking strong, or having a chance at least to battle with Taylor. Now, Nunez, his best run of the night and of the entire year, sees him significantly damaged at the tail end of the lead lap after getting a full wing change and a whole new front cone.
Yeah, and I suspect there's probably some more damage on that car as well that hasn't been repaired yet, because that car doesn't necessarily look the straightest that I've ever seen a car look. So
Yep.
really, really unfortunate for Luis Gonzalez Nunez there. Just an innocent victim.
Yep. But now it turns to the Taylor and Goodman show. Goodman, remember, was charging before the pit stop window the first time around for the race lead. Now that they are lined up 1-2 again, can things break down here for where Goodman will have a chance?
And one of the things I want to bring to your attention is that Goodman also has a teammate in Joe Branch sitting in fourth place as well, so that could also factor into this. Because we also know that Branch is definitely no slouch on these short tracks as well.
So the chess match continuing to build up a few more pieces. Interestingly enough, Shane Coogan, I think, had to let some drivers go. Yes, he actually pit because he couldn't make it on fuel either, so he elected to stay a lap down to make sure he could still make it to the end of the race.
Yeah, so he really had the choice of getting back onto the lead lap and then potentially being 2 laps down after his pit stop, or pitting now. Did I just hear something under caution? I heard an impact under caution here.
Ricky Harden is hard on the wall down the front stretch. One in the world. What just happened to Ricky Harden here as he just went hard right into the wall?
I have no idea what just happened here, but we're also just 2 corners away from the green flag. So will Ricky be able to continue on, or will this potentially affect the green flag here?
I don't think it'll impact the yellow. Here's a quick look, replay right side. From what I see in the onboard, he did a downshift at that time. Either way, green flag getting ready to wave, back underway. Matt Taylor looks to run away from the pack. Goodman struggling with aero wash off the launch. Hawkins the third, not so much. Big run for second. The 25 dives to the inside. The battle of the red cars. Hawkins the third up to P2.
We have race first in Ps 1 and 2, power slide P3 and 4 right now, and that was a really nice move there by Vern Hawkins III. He's been showing a lot of speed all through the week, and definitely be very comforting for Matt Taylor to have that teammate behind him now. Joe Branch right in behind his teammate in the GSI on board, but he's got Matt Wagner all over the back of him as well, so we are no shortage of action here on this top 10.
Gavin Sanders, his best run of the season so far, too. Looking to battle, but he has to fight against Trevor Malone, the points leader entering tonight. Blue and Black Machine sticks it towards the line. Still side by side, though. By the way, second on forward have broken away by 1 second from Michael Goodman on back.
It's just that clean air is really making a difference for Matt Taylor and Vern Hawkins. They're looking super strong out there. Meanwhile, here we are all the way back in 12th position for Andrew Wood. He's fighting here with Jim Herrick, and you can just see how devastating an effect that had on Wood's chances, because he is just nowhere close to the front of this field right now.
Can confirm that Ricky Harden has been posted by Race Control. He has gotten a new front wing on his number 7. However, with that incident, he is now firmly 1 lap down. We still remain green regardless. Wood still trying to battle. Also trying to battle AJ Musselman, who's on the same strategy as Wood tonight. 12th and 13th for those cars. Plus 24, plus 17 respectively.
definitely strong runs from Musselman and Wood, but again, it's just the strategy just did not work out for them. Their next car down the road right now is Mike Rigney, and we've seen him up at the front as well. So definitely, it's one of those races where you just have to be so perfect on your strategy, and sometimes it's good to make a call that gets you out from the pack, and sometimes it comes back to bite you, and I think that's what's happened with Wood and Musselman so far.
One of the drivers that strategy is played well for, I should say, is Dakota Nemade. We were talking about him in 23rd, remember, at the start of the race, stuck towards the back. He's now up to 12th spot, trying to keep up with Andrew Wood, in fact, here. He's looking very comfortable now position-wise after struggling early.
Yeah, Nemade has had one of those quiet drives that just allows the other drivers to make mistakes and just capitalize on those mistakes when they happen. So it's been a really strong run from Nemade, and just nice quiet day, and sometimes the quiet days are the best days in terms of points.
By the way, Andrew Wood is now up to 10th spot, making a move on Mike Rigney. So Wood is on the move. He's 5 seconds back of the leader, but he is right now a rocket ship. He is maintaining the exact pace, if not quicker pace, than Matt Taylor and Vern Hawkins III.
He's definitely putting down some lap times here, but the farther he goes through this field, the harder that these drivers are going to be to pass. Coming up on the back of Sam Ryman right now, but then you look at the likes of Gavin Saunders, Trevor Malone, they're going to be much harder for Wood to pass here.
Oh, don't forget Big Joe Hassard is out there too still. Meanwhile, up at the front, Hawkins III, still riding behind Matt Taylor. He can't seem to close up that 0.6 of a second buffer that Taylor has for the race lead, although they do have traffic approaching quickly, including Ricky Harden, the first driver who can be lapped this run.
Yeah, and this is the type of opportunity that Vern Hawkins is looking for. He's not going to be able to really close in much closer in clean air, but in this dirty air that Matt Taylor finds himself in now, we've seen Taylor just can't quite adapt as well as some of the other drivers in this top 5 so far. Obviously, Luis Gonzalez Nunez was the prime example, but Vern Hawkins has shown himself very adept at that dirty air running, so he is doing a great job running down his teammate right now.
He's closed up another couple tenths as a result of the aero wash being fed from the 7 machine back to Matt Taylor. This could open up the door for Hawkins III to reel him on in. And keep in mind, Vern Hawkins III, when it comes to his pace, he showed good flashes of speed. The Transcendent Motorsports machine looking to fight for the point. Still can't close up, back to 0.6 now as he still gets in the aero wash of Matt Taylor. This is also allowing Michael Goodman to rejoin the fray after dropping 2 seconds back.
Yep, all of this give and take, all of this back and forth, it's the product of this short track racing where the leader starts to run away and then suddenly they get into traffic and then it opens it up. So one of the things you can never do in a short track race is get discouraged, because there's so many opportunities that present itself, and as long as you're ready to take it, like Michael Goodman is, he could potentially find himself very close to victory here.
Especially if they start battling for the race lead with under 34 laps to go here at the Milwaukee Mile. Gap is down to about 0.4 of a second, and Hawkins III is gaining on entry. Here's a look at the weather conditions. They have stagnated around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The track temperature, 71 degrees Fahrenheit, is still the air temperature. Fairly high humidity with the winds gusting. The wind's currently gusting towards the back straightaway, over from the front straightaway grandstands currently. So those conditions have stabilized at about that 80 degrees, still very cool with the clouds as the drivers try and make some nifty moves in the traffic.
That was some tight racing there from Vern Hawkins. He definitely needed to clear that lap traffic as quickly as he can, and he did. And now he is right on the back of Matt Taylor here, and Matt Taylor just can't seem to do anything with that slower car of Ricky Harden in front of him. Of course, Ricky isn't that much slower now that he's replaced his front wing, so he's just trying to stay in position here, but in turn, it's just giving Matt Taylor dirty air and allowing his teammate to really pressure the back of him.
They haven't been able to find a way to even close up to Ricky Harden, keep in mind as well, with that wing change differential. So this could get really intriguing how this plays out with a bit of the fresher rubber with those Firestones for the number 7. 30 laps to go. From Race Spot TV and ESTV. Goodman has lost a bit of ground to all this as well. By the way, some of the drivers still charging ahead include Andrew Wood. The gap was about 5 seconds back of the leader a while ago. It's now under 4 seconds. Side by side for 7th. Andrew Wood looking to go plus 29. He does. He's up to 7th. A race high.
Yeah, definitely surprised to see just how strong Andrew Wood is on this final stint. It could be that some of these drivers maybe have to fuel save just a little bit here, Justin, and that's allowing Andrew Wood to go full bore and pass him. But you can see that Trevor Malone's certainly not making Andrew Wood's life easy as they are going back and forth for this 7th position.
This time Andrew Wood solidifies it as they get themselves around Gary Gonzo, who dives inside. Next car up ahead is Ron Hacker, nearly a full second up the track. Back up to the race leaders. Still half a second difference amongst them, and the interesting thing with them riding behind Ricky Harden here is they aren't necessarily gaining any ground on the lap traffic at the back of the pack. In fact, if anything, the pace and the tempo have slowed down by about 1/10 on average a lap than earlier.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
And check that as Ricky Harden lets the leader go. Not so much for Hawkins III yet. Here we go.
That was definitely not what Hawkins III wanted there, especially given how much he had to check up there coming out of turn 2 to make sure that he didn't get in the back of Ricky Harden. But this is released Matt Taylor, and this is really going to tell the tale. Is Vern Hawkins going to be able to stay with Matt Taylor, or will Matt Taylor, now that he has some real clean air in front of him, is he going to be able to stretch it out and take a stranglehold on this race?
Matt Taylor has already picked up 2/10 this lap. Here's the look again at Andrew Wood. He's already passed by Ron Hacker. The gap is still 3.8 seconds from the race lead, though. A long way for Wood to try and track ahead to get to this red machine, which is electrifyingly quick now with the clean air. 22.3s last time by.
Yeah, and if Matt Taylor was fuel saving, it could be that he was actually purposely behind Ricky Harden for a while, and now that he has made his fuel number, he is going with his foot to the floor here, because he has definitely turned up the wick here in these last few laps.
He has indeed. Joe Branch, by the way, he is still amongst the top 5 cars. See that battle with Goodman. Goodman hasn't been able to keep up with the top 2. And I've noticed this. Goodman, when he's been in second, he seems to do a very good job at keeping up with Taylor. Anywhere further back, not so much. He's fallen off 1/10 per lap. And they're being joined by Andrew Wood in their pack as well. This could be as high as 3rd now for the 64.
Yeah, the pace of Andrew Wood here on this final stint has been nothing short of astonishing here, Justin. I don't know how he's been able to keep up the lap times he has. As we see Matt Wagner going really deep into that corner, he's going to pay for it on this back straightaway, and it's going to allow Andrew Wood a nice run here, and I think Wood's got a stranglehold on 5th now.
To the inside of the Dark Horse Racing machine, Andrew Wood up the spot. And he makes it look very easy for a guy who says, as you've seen in front of his face, that this is a Zamboni he's driving. No, it's not, but you get the point. 20 to go this time.
20 to go, and will Wood have enough time to really make a dent into this top 3 here? He's got 2 really strong power slide drivers in front of him, and he's no stranger to looking at the back of a power slide motorsports car. He's been fighting with them throughout his iRacing career, so there's definitely going to be, I think, a little bit of extra incentive for Wood to get around these 2 drivers right in front of him.
Meanwhile, checking back in on DeMade, who was very quick at tracks like Richmond, Iowa, and company last season. He's trying to hold off a few of our drivers, including Luis Gonzalez Nunez in 14th. The 14 car is trying to put on a solid recovery drive here after those hard licks under the big one a few cautions ago.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like he has quite the car that he had before, but back to the front, Joe Branch has got his hands full. Wood is looking to come up here, and he is coming up real quick.
Wood looking solid on the exit, trying to get the run. Can't quite yet with Joe Branch going defensive. Branch goes a little deeper on entry. Wood tries to diamond it once again. Bit of a checkup on the corner exit. Can't get the run quite yet. Just seems to be stuck behind the Owen Black machine. Tries to send it to lick the stamp. Can he make it stick? You know he does not. Branch is able to hold on firmly.
And this is the benefit of having a teammate up there with you, is you can do a little bit of coordination, and I'm sure Branch and Goodman are talking through it and trying to feed as much dirty air as possible to Andrew Wood to make it as difficult as possible. But Wood is really starting to pressure the back of both of these cars here.
Trying the bottom yet again. The bottom again, no dice. And it seems to be a difficult thing for Wood right now to find that run to clear on by. It seems he's more comfortable towards the outside. Will this run work? He tried to dive in it yet again. Got a good run off the corner. Hard send for the spot for fourth. And again, Arrow Wash checks him up. This time he pinches him up.
Joe Branch had to get out of the gas there in order to avoid a collision, and that's all that Andrew Wood needed in order to get by the 28 car there. And now Wood has his sets firmly sight on Michael Goodman in the 99 Power Slide car right in front of him. And he just might have a podium here by the end of this race, Justin.
It's looking very confident and very good for Wood to at least get up there. He is picking up more time now. He tries to dive in it once again and get around the 99. He's had to come from the very tail end of the pack tonight. Wood gets the run. The block from Goodman, a huge checkup as the Arrow Wash takes him up the circuit.
And that's allowed Branch to have one more run at him. It'll be interesting to see if Branch pulls back in, tries to get the draft, or whether he carries him all the way down in the corner here. It's going to be very important for Goodman to try and help Branch as much as possible, but it looks like Wood just has the strongest car here for now. He's going back for third right now.
The big send again for third. This time Wood takes it. Andrew Wood, a race high third, up 33 spots. 11 laps to go this time by 3.1 seconds, the difference between first and third, all while Matt Taylor, bottom corner of your screen, has pulled away by about 2 seconds from Hawkins the third. The thing is, though, it might not be over. Wood is still closing in. He's within a second of Hawkins the third down.
Yeah, Wood is definitely on the charge, but Michael Goodman just had a disastrous set of corners this last time through here. Through turns 3 and 4, he and Trevor Malone got very, very close, and it just looked like possibly a little bit of contact between the two. Has shuffled Goodman, where he was third, all the way back now to 7th position at the end of that train. So real shame for Goodman there. He was having a really strong drive to that point. But Wood is on a mission here. Hawkins has been left by Taylor, and now he might be right for the pickings of Andrew Wood.
Wood has closed up half a second in one lap already. 2/10 quicker than the race leader last time by as well. Under 10 laps to go. Wood tries to do the improbable, but he does have traffic to potentially deal with 2 up the road as well. Wood trying to find a way to get up to second. Hawkins the third. I don't expect this to make it easy for Wood here with 8 laps to go, with how far up Hawkins the third has ridden much of the race. But here comes the send. Wood with the stamp sent again. Again the send works. Wood up to second, 2 seconds back.
I definitely think Vern Hawkins III is saving fuel. It doesn't look like he had the full power available to him, as Branch is now closed onto the back of him as well. So yeah. I think that's probably definitely a factor here. But now the question becomes, can Andrew Wood find a way to get up to the back of Matt Taylor? There's 1 lap car in between the two of them right now, and that's all that stands between Andrew Wood going from the very back of the field with an end-of-line penalty to the very front in 7 laps here.
Keep in mind, several drivers trying to stretch on the gas to, for some of them, the longest distance they'd have to go tonight. 57 laps. Matt Taylor, he's dropped to the 22.7s, albeit he had traffic ahead. Wood, coming to 5 laps to go, needs to close up 1.5 seconds to challenge the race leader. Taylor's led 129 laps so far out of 170.
Absolutely amazing stuff here from Andrew Wood, but he still has 1 more car in between the two of them. That's, I believe, the 2 of Gary Godso going 1 more lap down here. But it's so close for Andrew Wood. I'm sure that at this point, Matt Taylor has forgotten all about fuel saving with that 64 car closing in on the back of him. And could very well be that there is now nothing in between the two of them but 1 second now.
1.2 seconds, in fact, now between them, under 4 laps to go. How does Wood do this is the big question. Clean track for the most part ahead, just one car, potentially a factor in Sam Crow. 1.1 seconds, 3 laps to try and do it.
As Matt Wagner and Trevor Malone here are fighting over 5th and 6th position. Matt Wagner has been defending like crazy from Trevor Malone, but the action, I think, is at the front of this field with Andrew Wood. He's now down to just over a second. He's cutting through the gap every corner, but I just don't think he quite has enough time left in this race to really get up to the back of Matt Taylor here.
1 second back, 2 laps to go for Andrew Wood. He's trying to push hard, nearly up to the wall. Half a tenth gain down the backstretch. Coming up to the white flag, this time by for the MOZA Racing Milwaukee 175. Will be Matt Taylor or will be Andrew Wood. 6/10 the gap. Final time around.
Andrew Wood is so close. He's gotten so far in this race, and I just think he's going to come up just a little bit short here, Justin.
Half a second back. Will that be the case? 4/10 back. Taylor holds on to the bottom. He's starting to sputter. He's trying to hold up the speed. He tries to keep his foot in it. Matt Taylor does hold on. He wins the MOZA Racing Milwaukee 175 by 0.3 of a second.
Vern Hawkins III runs out of fuel before the line, giving 3rd place to Joe Branch. Matt Wagner 4th and Vern down in 5th place. A few other drivers also just weren't quite able to stretch it, but the story of the race here, Matt Taylor did just enough to have just enough fuel left, held off Andrew Wood. What a drive from Matt Taylor, and what a recovery drive from Andrew Wood there at the end.
This finish moves into the top 7 all-time in Lionheart Speedway Series competition in its short history so far. 0.293 seconds. Matt Taylor dominates, but it took a lot of work to get here for the number 8 machine. He's shown great improvement. He showed great speed in his Lionheart career. He breaks through for the victory here tonight at Milwaukee Mile. And you can see already no burnout. He might be out of gas.
I definitely think that he's out of gas. He used every last drop of fuel that car had in him, but that's all that he needed was to get across the finish line first, and that's exactly what he did here today.
An incredible finish to tonight's action. Here's a look at the unofficial race results, brought to you by SimRace 24/7. Matt Taylor. He was tested to the very end tonight, 134 laps on the night. In the end, he takes the checkered over a very hard-charging Andrew Wood, who came from the 36th official starting spot, but also from an EOL to start shotgun. Joe Branch finished in 3rd, with Matt Wagner in 4th. Vern Hawkins the 3rd, Dakota DeMaine, Michael Goodman, AJ Musselman, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, a shout out to him with the comeback tonight. Trevor Malone rounds out the top 10. 11th spot tonight went to Samuel Ryman, another consistent finish for him. Jim Herrick finishes in 12th for the rookies. Jeff Sheehan finishes 13th. Gavin Sanders, the last car in the lead lap, finished in 14th. Ron Hacker was the first driver 1 lap down, with Big Joe Hassard in 16th. Greg Forsythe, Shane Coogan, Mike Rigney, Hugo Gallas, the top 20. Isaiah Dupree finished in 21st, the last car 1 lap down. While Gabe Wood was involved in the big one, he finished in 22nd. Ricky Harden looked comfortable in his running spot before his issue under caution coming to the 1 to green, seeing him finish 2 laps down. Mike Gibson, Sam Crow also finished there, with Gary Godso 4 laps down, 26. Chris Fowler was involved in the big one in 27th, along with Paul Jenkins. Matthew Short also collected. Ryan King finishes in 30th. 31st, George Anzaldo, James Watson 32nd, Carter, Will Gibson, Jacob Oster, Gonzalo Munoz, Tony Shalman, Dean Mull, the 38 drivers who started tonight here at the Milwaukee Mile. Some incredible action tonight from Wisconsin, as that brings us directly into the Lionheart HyperX post-race show, as the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the luxury ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows for all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. It's time to dive straight into HyperX Victory Lane, where Matt Taylor dominated at the Milwaukee Mile, but he had to sweat for it at the end. Andrew Wood closed up what was about a 5-second gap with 30 to go, down to 3/10 at the checkered. Matt, how tight was that margin for you?
The margin was, I sputtered at the line. It could not have been any tighter than that.
Of course, Andrew Wood was amongst those with the gamble to stay out during a caution flag. They got the big one to help on that mark. How pressure-filled was it, though, for you, seeing that comeback from him on that different strategy, a couple laps on hand on the fuel tank, to come that quick, that fast?
I was just kind of watching the relative and really just super focused on the fuel, and I saw he had a big gap back and just kept doing what I was doing, hoping I was going to make it. The fuel number was showing 0 at the line, and I was right there.
An incredible win for you tonight, Matt. Congratulations on the W.
Hey, thanks. I'd like to jump in real quick. Thanks to Raceverse. They broadcast the fixed race on Monday nights, which is pretty cool. Got Sunset Arctic on the car. He's got a game on Steam. It's pretty neat. And 40 Racewear. It's a brand new company. They've got some racing gear coming out that looks pretty interesting too. But thank you, guys.
Once again, that's Matt Taylor, your winner tonight in the Lionheart Speedway Series. Andrew Wood finished in second. From an EOL and starting shotgun to nearly winning the race after coming back from 5 seconds behind on the different strategy with about 30 to go. Talk about the charge, Andrew.
Oh man, where do I start? Yeah, so starting from the back, you kind of have to have a mindset of what could happen mid-pack with different packs of people trying to race each other, and it definitely was kind of busy in the middle, back of the pack. For sure. So really it was just kind of saving my front tires for the first stint, just kind of hanging in there, and once the positions kind of opened up for me, I took advantage, but I definitely wanted to hold my right front especially for the end of the stint, and I was the fastest car on track at the end of the first stint, around lap 48, 49 or so. So it was just kind of making up positions from there and trying to make sure I had the right fuel strategy. I was hoping to make it on one more stop with the third, I think it was the second or third caution in there. But once I was in the lead and that last caution came out, I knew I had to bail because everybody else was probably going to make it. So just tried to run my race from there and see where I could make from there.
Well, you should probably know Matt Taylor was sputtering at the line. That's how tight the margin was on the gas. Now knowing that context, what was the emotions like with you closing up coming that close to victory after, of course, what happened last time out? And you mentioned after that race how much you loved this track.
Yeah, so I had Jason Brophy on my box, and he was giving me updates. He was telling me that Taylor was definitely kind of sputtering towards the line. So, it just is what it is. If I had made it by Branch and Goodman a little bit earlier, might have had a shot for something there, but I definitely kind of felt like I had a shot right on the last lap, especially when I started closing that little bit. But I mean, good job to Matt Taylor for saving that little bit of fuel. If that was me in the lead, I would have been praying for the same thing, just hitting that number and making sure I make it.
Congratulations on the podium, Andrew.
Yeah, definitely, thanks.
That's Andrew Wood's second spot tonight. Joe Branch rounds out the top three. And Joe, hard fighting for you throughout the night. With your yellow and black machine, you look to sting like a bee. You stung like a bee to the podium. How does it feel?
It felt good. Good run. Top 10 all night. Just was trying to find my advantage with the fuel. As soon as I thought I found it, then here come Wood flying behind me, and I realized I had to go. So, but it was a good race to the end. It was fun.
How difficult was it to try and position yourself in the battles? It seemed at times aero wash was a bit of a factor, with several drivers trying different lines. Yeah,
I really liked the car in traffic. I felt like I could kind of go where I wanted. It was just all about momentum and not getting yourself in a bad place. Felt like I had a really good race. I think I passed a handful of guys. Don't think I got passed by too many. So kept moving forward and had a good run. Top 3, definitely something that can keep the momentum up going into a Triple Crown race.
It's going to be intriguing at Pocono. Congratulations on the Pocono, or rather on the podium.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
That's Joe Brancherati at the top 3. I'd like to thank him, Andrew Wood, Matt Taylor for taking the time to speak with us. But the Milwaukee Mile put on a show tonight, Andrew. Attrition, yes, was there. But heading into a Triple Crown race next time out, the tempo has been set for some of the contenders for this year.
Yeah, there's absolutely been some cream rising to the top here. We've seen some speed from a number of drivers, Andrew Wood, Matt Taylor, chief among them. And they'll definitely be looking to continue that momentum next week at Pocono for that first Triple Crown race. But it's an entirely different challenge that sits before these drivers next week. The only true triangular oval on in the world, and it is a real challenge in these cars to try and make that car work on all 3 corners. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how these drivers work with the setup and everything and the challenge next week.
It's going to be a very entertaining Triple Crown event next time out, Pocono Raceway. Be sure to tune in. But on that note, I'd like to thank the many sponsors who help support Lionheart Racing Series, starting with the title sponsor of the Speedway Series, MOZA Racing. MOZA Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, MOZA Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the luxury ultra-comfortable cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt kicker, haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine red line. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit www.nextlevelracing.com. Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls. Precision built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and hard handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com. It's not just those 5 names, but so many more that help make things operate as they do with all the partners in the Lionheart Racing Series. To learn more about them, visit LionheartRacingSeries.com. You can also find out more information about the 3 competitions that the Lionheart sanctioning body runs. Entertaining action all throughout tonight here at the Milwaukee Mile. The next time Lionheart Racing Series action hits the track is this Thursday for the first Triple Crown race for the Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing. Or Pocono action for the MOZA Racing Pocono 250 presented by Extreme Scoring. Coverage starts 10:05 p.m. Eastern on April the 7th. The next time the Speedway Series hits the track is for its triple header at the same track, the Graphics Esports Pocono 300. Coverage starts 10:05 p.m. Eastern. With that, it's time to say goodbye. For Arjuna Kankipani and Andrew Kinsella, I'm Justin Prince. Thank you for watching tonight's coverage on RaceSpot TV and ESTV for Lionheart Speedway Series action. Congratulations to Matt Taylor, your winner from Wisconsin.